kind of embrace being the underdog, embrace people not maybe putting as much respect as we should get. But at the end of the day, you also got to earn it. And eventually, when you go in the playoff and you play for a championship, they have no choice but to have us on national television. So you got to earn on TV games, baby.
Well, guess what, Rudy Gobert? You earned your national TV games. The Timberwolves, the Spurs are in prime time tonight on ESPN. Welcome to NBA Countdown live from our studios here in Los Angeles, alongside our senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski, Chiney Ogwumike, Richard Jefferson, Kendrick Perkins. I'm Malika Andrews. And guys, don't look now, but the Minnesota Timberwolves, they have the best record in the NBA. At 15-4, the T-Wolves, they're off to their best start through 19 games in franchise history. And with a win tonight, that would be their best through 20 games. And hey, take a look at this. The T-Wolves also, they've had success against the better teams in the league this season, right? They're 8-2 against teams with 500 or better records, the best mark in the NBA. They've had a 600 win percentage in those games just once in team history. That was back in the 03-04 season. But it's more than that. It feels like they've really found something, Chiney, with Anthony Edwards, with Karl Anthony Towns, with Rudy Gobert. Why is it that it's so much better this year than last year?
It's no longer a power struggle. They know who the big dog is. They know who their team leader is, and it happens to be the youngest guy in Anthony Edwards, and he has just been sensational so far this season. And Perk and I were talking while we're eating at Fixin's across the street.
What'd you get?
And what did I get? Today I had the oxtails with rice. It was so good. That's my go-to after he recommended the gumbo. But hey, what I'm saying is that one thing that they've really figured out is this no longer a power struggle, and it's really come from the defensive end. Because if you look at this team, they're the #1 defense in the NBA. Even Anthony Edwards is holding his opponents to 40% shooting on defense. So they're bought in on that end of the court. But the big picture here, Perk and I were talking, it's hard to play in this modern day, today's day basketball with two true big men on the floor, Cat and Rudy Gobert.
Yep.
They have defied the odds. They found a way to do it on both ends of the floor, where Cat is shooting the ball well, Rudy's going for 20, and is the best player on the floor. Now we're looking at the best team in the West.
Cat is a 50-40-90 player right now.
Yeah.
Why'd you whisper it?
Like, Cat is a 50-40-90 player right now.
I could feel it in the air.
Okay.
I could hear it in your voice. That's the leadership, right? They could feel the energy of Anthony Edwards, and they could hear his voice. Chiney just talked about his defensive prowess and how he has set the tone. You know who else is following this lead? Karl Anthony Towns. Last year at the basket, holding opponents to like 60% shooting, protecting the rim. This year, 50%. That's a 10% gap. So when you look at starting fives around the league, we talk about the Celtics, right? We look at that Porzingis, Tatum, Brown, Holiday, and Derek White. But when you look at Minnesota, it's no drop-off. So you have Mike Conley, you have Anthony Edwards, you have McDaniels when he's healthy, Karl Anthony Towns. But Rudy Gobert, right? Could seriously make a case for him being the defensive player of the year right now, front runner, right? What he's doing. I think 4th in the league in blocks, 4th in the league in rebounds. And when you talk about rim protection at the basket, he's #2 behind Anthony Davis. His impact. Because look, Malika, let me say this. Donovan Mitchell couldn't pull this Rudy Gobert out of him this passion. All right, Jimmy Butler couldn't pull this Karl Anthony Towns out of him.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards do it, and we're seeing the best version of Rudy right now.
But this is a drastically different conversation that we're having about the Timberwolves than we were all talking about, that the league was talking about when they made that trade for Rudy Gobert. The discussion was how much they gave up and was it worth it, Woj? So how has that conversation turned and why in the last year?
Yeah, Tim Connolly had just come over from Denver to Minnesota to run that organization, and he took a lot of criticism initially for that Rudy Gobert trade. They gave up a lot, multiple picks. Their #1 pick in Walker Kessler, who certainly has a great future ahead of him in Utah. But Tim Connolly believed this, and you saw in how he built that Denver team. With Anthony Edwards, he needed to put around him maturity, leadership. He wanted winning players around him. He wanted work ethic around him. And so you see that with not just Rudy Gobert, but bringing in Mike Conley at the trade deadline, bringing in Kyle Anderson in free agency. That was a big part of it for them. And to bring defense in alongside Karl Anthony Towns on the front line. And now you have a Minnesota team that has lots of assets, a team right now that's the best in the West. And they can move forward, whether it's, trading one of those, you know, you look down the road and you say, can you pay all these guys moving forward? They'll have some decisions to make down the road, but right now, you expect them to play it out with this roster. And this is a team now, as you guys said, with Anthony Edwards, you know, that they believe can make a deep run in the postseason.
Look, when I see the shift in this team, it's a lot of things. You said, like, Anthony Edwards is not Anthony Edwards, but Anthony Towns is a 50, 40, 90 guy. Well, he's a multi-time All-Star. He was a former #1 pick. He's been an All-NBA player. So, yes, he's continuing to ascend. So to see these numbers from what we know to be one of the best shooting big men, we've seen that statistically in his numbers. So I'm not surprised. I'm just happy to see it. I'm happy to see that they're bringing it all together.
Is there anything that surprises you, Richard? Because I do think it was surprising to see Anthony Edwards after this offseason make this jump. I mean, this is the team that's the best, quote-unquote, statistically in the West.
Well, you wouldn't say after the offseason if you also watch USA basketball.
That's what I meant. FIBA.
If you watch, that's what I'm saying. If you watch the postseason, you watch how they ended, then you watch USA basketball, then he made this leap that everyone was expecting. But to Perk's point, it's the Jaden McDaniels, it's the Naz Reid, it's the ancillary guys around these superstars that make the superstars great.
Is this the year they win a playoff series, Perk?
Absolutely. You know what? They have culture. We talk about culture. The Minnesota Timberwolves have culture. They will be a serious hard out in this postseason, and we cannot look past them. They have the best record for a reason.
It was certainly interesting, even watching them play the Denver Nuggets last year, even though they lost that series. The matchups there, they all gave us something to chew on, and it feels like they've taken the natural next step.
NBA